Hey, welcome to the Band Advice Podcast, the Matt and Mark Show, where we're going to sit around and talk about music stuff, because that's what we do, and we do it quite well, don't we, Mr. Matt?
Well, that depends on who you ask, I guess.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how many thumbs up we get from these videos and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But we're sure having a good time doing it. Yep, definitely. So, well, got any gigs coming up?
Man, I'm trying to recover from this horrible explosion that I was involved in. And I broke my pinky finger on my fretting hand in 4 places.
Oh, man.
And so I've been in this splint since October or November the 1st, right around there. And so, I just it's just been torturous for me to, live music and playing, that's how I make, most of my living is doing that. And so it's been really hard and frustrating because, usually right around the holidays, I'm always picking up some Christmas parties or whatever it is, and it's a good chance to, kind of get out there and play some different stuff. But I wasn't able to do that this year. And so it's that's been really frustrating. Roy Clark died, and then I saw Generation X, and I was like, I went home and I'm like, man, I just want to burn the paint off one of them.
Was that not an awesome show?
Oh my, man. I was like, I've been watching those 4 guys for their whole, my whole awareness of music, and it's like, man, that was so good. And the way they did it was just so good. Yeah. It was just like, that was seriously one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was right down on the floor, and when Zach came by and put his knuckles up for me, it's like I just knew you had to be jealous because of V. And then Steve Vai walked about as close as you are to me. It's like I've seen Vi a couple times, man, and both times he's walked right by me. It's like, this is cool.
Yeah, man. When I met him in Los Angeles, and
Vi.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And
my new guy.
It was at the NAMM show. One of my friends knows him. They played together and stuff, and so I was hanging with him, and we saw Steve, and he was talking to Steve, and it was like listening to them talk was like listening to a couple of aliens, And then when I shook his hand, it was like shaking hands with an alien. Yeah, he's just real long fingers, and
he does.
Man, he's just like, that's the guy. He's up there in the super guitarist.
Oh, sure.
There's good, and there's great, and then there's the super great.
So what do you think, Vi or Satriani? Of course, for those that don't know, Steve Vai did take guitar lessons from Satriani at the get-go, but I think the student soon became the master.
Yeah, I got to say Vi's got all those guys.
Yeah.
In the terms of songwriting and just it goes without saying. He's just technical. He's mastered the instrument.
Nice.
And, as far as songwriting goes, I always kind of thought Vi's just, there's Vi and then there's everything else. Because a lot of those guys are great shredders, but they just didn't have the songs.
Right. You got to have a melody of some sorts, and the shredding fills in between there.
And it's cool and all that, and that attracts a certain audience, but I just feel like, as far as the super guitarist, anybody like that, I wouldn't say to me, shredder kind of is a negative connotation to me.
Yeah, because it's just about how many notes can you pack in there in a certain amount of time.
Right.
I think that was one of the things that kind of turned me off about Yngwie when I was earlier on, too. It's just like, okay, there's a lot going on here. Now, granted, now that I'm a lot more apt to and knowing more music theory and stuff, it's like I see the genius behind it. But when you're a 15-year-old kid going, man, it's a lot of notes, and I'm never going to touch it.
Well, and there was, still, when you realize, you don't have to play everything in every single thing, know? And
True.
I can watch guys like that, and I can be like, okay, that's overplaying. That's over. Yngwie he overplays regularly. Now, I didn't feel that when I saw Vi.
Yeah.
I felt Vi has got a leash on everything he's doing. He's not overplaying. He's putting a lot of notes in. He's putting a lot of changes in. He's using a lot of techniques, but I don't feel like Vi was overplaying.
Right.
I felt like there was times that Yngwie was overplaying.
Yeah.
And, that's cool, I guess, to a certain audience. And, the audiences that go to those shows or go to any shows, they're not doing this all the time.
Right.
So anything sounds good to them. And, when you study it all the time, you have a different viewpoint.
Sure.
But, Yngwie is Yngwie, and he's famous for being Yngwie.
Yeah, some of the stuff he did is definitely groundbreaking. I'm going to give him that. It's just, and I have nothing against him. Anybody, don't forward this on with any sort of hate mail. So,
oh, no.
I have utmost respect for him. It just wasn't my cup of tea at the time where Vi was. And, I remember seeing Crossroads, and when he did that Paganini-like during the duel scene. It's I still try to warm up to it, and I've gotten to about 2/3 the speed of what he is, and one of these days, when I'm totally liberal, I'll hit every single note perfectly, and it'll probably never happen again.
Yeah.
It's still a lot of fun.
I was thinking about. I've sat down with his 12-hour guitar workout several times over the years, just trying to make. Okay, this guy did this every day for years.
Yes.
Okay, this is what it's going to take to get
Yes.
these things into your fingers. And I mean, it's not like you got to try to be like these guys. You got to just take a little bit from one, a little bit from another, and make it you, man.
Yeah.
And that's what those guys got. That not a lot of the people that followed in their wake do.
Right.
They are them, undisputedly, unashamedly. They are them.
Mm-hmm.
And copycats are only second or third best.
Sure.
And so, I mean, okay, I can show you a little solos that say, hey, this is off of this album of mine, a song of mine, and here's this little kind of counterpunctual thing that I got from listening to Yngwie, but it's really, he got it listening to Paganini.
Yeah.
He got it listening to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always kind of thought of him as not really necessarily a rock musician, but a classical musician who uses rock instruments.
Yep.
Really, that's the truth. And so, that show was so good. And, I came home and I was like, man, I just want to play. But, I've had a couple of months here to kind of think about different ways of approaching it. I've been playing live since, probably in the 80s sometime, school dances, scout things, church functions. I played.
What was that song that you used to like to play? Firehouse, Love of a Lifetime. You told me that one time. It's like, okay, I'm going to just save that for the appropriate time to jar you a little bit.
Well, all those, it just depends on what it is.
That was our genre, 80s hair bands. Man. That's what we grew up in. So.
I mean, 80s hair bands were that was the thing when we were what?
Instead of now, which is an 80-year-old hairline. So.
Yeah, right. Now those guys are, it's just kind of crazy to watch how a lot of those bands, they're still going, but how they're going.
Yeah.
And there's very few of them that are still like all original members, and the salacious stories of all the things that have befallen them since their heyday is, I mean, that's really okay. I know the music. I've listened to the music for years. I know all that, but now it's sort of like, well, what's happening with these guys? What happened to this guy?
Right.
That's pretty interesting stuff.
Well, you can always tell when suddenly it's like the lead singer's names in his version of the band. It's like Jack Russell's
Great White.
It's like, okay, well, what about the other guy's Great White?
Right.
Because I guess the Mark guy and him split off or whatever. So now you got these two versions. In fact, the company I worked for, we were hosting a trade show, and we actually hired Starship to come out and play, but it's Mickey's Starship.
Right.
So it was just him, and none of the other players. And they brought him in, and they put him in this big old stage, and there was maybe about 200 people in the room, and he's looking around and goes, I don't think I'm going to fill this room. But he didn't care because he got his paycheck. And, we paid
private parties,
$20,000 or something.
Private parties are lucrative.
I tell you, and they worked for him. He got to play 1 hour, and when our CEO of our company tried to bring him back up for an encore, they're like, nope, contract fulfilled. It's like, yeah. So interesting stuff. So we were going to talk about gigs, but I'm kind of liking this guitar talk a little bit.
Yeah.
So yes or no? Is the guitar dead?
Hell no.
For you, but do you think in the industry right now is the guitar dead?
It depends on what vein you're trying to tap into in the industry.
Okay.
I mean, I've accepted the fact that anything that's done on guitar that's real is fringe level music now.
Okay.
It's not the mainstream.
Yep.
And I don't pay attention to those charts. I don't pay attention to any of that. It's all just whatever.
Okay, so is rock guitar dead?
No.
Okay. We know that country guitar is still going strong. You got Brent Mason, you got Brad Paisley, and Wampler making all these pedals for these guys, and Keeley making all these pedals for these guys. It's great stuff, and as a guitar player, it's really exciting watching the country side of it. But I'm not seeing any. Okay, John Mayer, I guess he's about really the only one I've seen come out on the rock side and the pop side that it was really kind of a notable guitar player. What about you? Have you seen somebody who's kind of hit the pop side with his guitar player?
Well, I mean, when I was teaching a few of my students, I taught them that song about the daughter or whatever it is. It was just kind of a acoustic, pop song.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he's done a lot of other stuff. It's like, you know, the trio with I think it was Dennis Chambers and some other people. You know, it was kind of like Jeff Beckish maybe a little bit, you know, which less of the pop music. So he evolved, you know, and then now he's been playing with the Dead.
Right.
I mean, the Dead are just, I mean, they're all drawing lines in the sand about this and that and the other. I'm like, that's never, you know, since Jerry died, it's never really been the Grateful Dead. It's carrying on a spirit.
Sure.
And whoever the players are,
kind of like Queen's doing right now,
right? And you know, whoever is carrying on the spirit, that's totally up to whatever's going on there, and so that's cool. I mean, you got to give it to anybody who's out there doing it, who's making people happy, who's got a pretty decent gig. You know, I mean, you got to give it to them. They're doing something right.
Right.
And you know, it's easy to sit back and criticize people, but you know, it's like when you read those horrible comments on about a third of anyone famous's posts, you're like, well, where's this guy playing? Let's see what he's doing. And then you're like, okay, my mom always says, consider the source.
Yes.
And that's the great
that
advice.
Is true.
It's
that
great advice.
Absolutely.
You're like, okay, you go look at this, and it's like, well, I mean, whatever, this guy, he's doing it. He's playing some level, whatever it is. I mean, everybody's got their voice, and it's easy to put it out there now, you know? I think, like, there's so much great music out there that's not, like, being force-fed in the mainstream thing. You just got to look for it.
Okay.
You just got to look for it. You know, people say rock guitar is dead. That article that came out this year, it's like, you know, I guess if, you know, when I went, even in LA, when I went there to mix the second album, you know, I went there to try to get that done. And, you know, in the interim, when I was there, I wanted to go out and hear some music. Well, man, it was hard to find, you know, just a band like like I'm doing it, just playing at a little club somewhere. I didn't, you know, I'd already been and seen the Hollywood thing. I've done that already, but I wanted to just go find a band who was just out there working, out there doing it real. And it wasn't that easy to find, even in a place like that, which was surprising. But, you know, there's places that people are still into music, you know. It's like, I don't think rock guitar is dead. I think it's out here on the fringes. Like, you know, rap used to be on the fringe. Sure.
Sure.
You know, everything kind of has its
too.
Yeah, it kind of has its day, and a lot of times it depends on where you are.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it depends on, like, you know, if you're in a major city now, I mean, it's just like everywhere else. If you're in some of the places outside major cities, they're just not quite as used to seeing 5 things to do every night, you know, superstar names to go see all the time. And so they have a little bit different appreciation of what's happening, what's going on, you know. I think that, you know, there's so many great players out there that are doing it right now, and they're not famous, they're not rich, they're not well known, but they've got a core group of fans that will show up and see them in 50 U.S. cities at venues of whatever size, and they're able to, you know, keep on going and doing their art. You know, that's what I really had to come to in the last 20 years is like, look, am I doing this to just be famous and rich? I could be doing something else.
Sure.
It'd be a lot easier.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just doing it because I love the music and I love the way it makes me able to communicate things that I really can't communicate by talking, you know. And so I think there's always going to be, you know, a certain segment of the audience that appreciates and understands that. And they're going to be able to see through all the, you know, fake kind of stuff that's geared for 14-year-old girls, you know.
Sure.
Not there's anything wrong with being a 14-year-old girl.
Not at all.
I
just would not look good as one.
No, and I would be a failure trying to play music that would entertain them.
Right, exactly. So
unless, you know, the thing I've noticed about gigging too is like, you know, when you play a song that's familiar to people, it conjures up these feelings.
Sure does.
And it can either conjure up good feelings or bad feelings, you know. And when somebody, you know, comes up to you with tears in their eyes and they say, you know, my dad used to play that on LP when I was a little girl, or I was a little boy, my dad loved this, and da-da-da. And, you know, you're plucking that, you know, emotional thing. And it's like, that's what music really is there for, is, you know.
Yeah, no, I get that, man. Because, like, you know, currently I play in my church every Sunday, and a lot of times it's electric, sometimes it's acoustic, and
Mm.
every now and then they let me sing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that one song by David Crowder that I did, and it's All My Hope Is in Jesus. And I sang that song, and my wife was crying. She's like,
Yeah.
it just moved the entire congregation that much. It's like, that's what music's about.
Yeah.
And that's why I do it. And I often said, if I could just write that one song and I can just play it in front of a auditorium full of people and just touch every one of those people with it, I could fall over dead right after that.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, that didn't happen after I played that song
Yeah,
at
good.
church because,
Good.
I was kind of worried, I said that and what's going to happen. But no,
Right.
it's just, to me, that's what it's about. So, the fame.
What is fame?
What is fame? I want my music to be heard. Where you and I have a little bit of difference is that you make your living doing this. So you definitely want to see a little bit of return on your investment. Me, I'm kind of okay with just watching the Spotify plays going on and not seeing anything on sales on iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
But, just having your stuff heard that's cool. So
yeah, and appreciated and respected. Everybody wants that, But at the same time, that's not really the reason I do it. Because I'm telling you, when you're out there on the road and you've had a rough trip or a rough gig or rough whatever, you got to ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody in this vicinity seems to care at all and close to what I care about what I'm doing here. Why am I doing it?
Right.
So you get after all, I've played at 14 states. And I've done about 1,850 gigs in 20 years.
Jeez.
And so I've had a lot of times, not every show is sold out over the top crazy. In fact, most of them aren't sold out over the top and crazy. They're, you just never know what you're going to get. And you have to figure out, why am I doing this?
Right.
Okay, well, there's nobody here tonight. Well, I'm here playing music. That's what I'm here for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's when you kind of get into, okay, well, at a club, they're into the music, sort of.
Right.
But really, in all actuality, they're in a different business than we are.
Yep.
They are in the alcohol business.
That is true.
They're in the social business.
They're in the job of slinging drinks, not promoting your music.
Exactly.
And
so that's what you kind of have to understand and realize is nothing against cocktail waitresses, but you can't really leave your promotion of your music career into the hands of a cocktail waitress.
That is true.
She's a cocktail waitress, not a music promoter.
Right.
Not a talent buyer. Not, it's, you got to understand that. And once you do understand that, then it becomes a lot easier.
That's a interesting point. And I know you and I have said it, and I hear a lot of people say, this town doesn't cater to original music, or this club doesn't, there's no club owners that care about music and all that kind of stuff. And you're right, they don't. For the most part, they don't. They want you are there to bring people in, put butts in the seat, and watch that cash go across the bar. Now, every now and then you get somebody like the CBGB, what was Tilly?
I forget what his name was.
Too. Somebody
it was a labor of love, but that didn't start out as a punk rock.
No, it did not. It was
venue.
bluegrass.
Yeah.
And then the promoter came in and says, try this band, and it just blew up, and he jumped on the bandwagon, followed it, and really got into that whole punk scene. But the thing was, he was a horrible businessman. I watched the movie the other day. It's like, the money was coming in and it was going out faster than it was coming in because he wasn't a businessman. He enjoyed being the promoter, the proprietor.
And
of
there's
the
a certain,
club, so.
there's a certain romanticism about that, man, because when I figured it out and I've seen it in my career, in the time I've been playing, I mean, the business gets in the way.
Yeah.
It gets in the way. And, just the unbridled freedom of somebody asked me the other day, what's your most favorite gig you've ever played? And I'm like, well, they're all good in one way or another, but I'll tell you, the most fun that I have is when I know and that no one can hear me. That's the most fun when I have playing is when I know no one can hear me. So I can completely just let my hair down, so to speak, what's left of it, and, just do whatever I want.
Sure.
Now, sure, it's great to be playing with known artists. It's great to be playing in bigger places. It's great to be making money. It's great to do that, but it all comes down to it. You really got to do it because you love the music.
Right. So bar gigs a necessary evil, especially in situations of people trying to make a living doing this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, nobody's getting discovered in bars anymore. I mean, the Sunset Strip thing's gone. So what would be the next step? How would you advise the next generation? They got to get out there, get their music heard, and having it happen on Pandora may not happen. So you got to get yourself in front.
Promote your own show.
Promote your own
Just
show.
promote your own show.
You did that one time. In fact, I think I emceed it or something like that.
You were the MC.
Over at the venue Shrine, or I guess it was just called a Shrine back then. But so tell me how that, what was the genesis of that, and how would you rate the success of that?
Well, that was years ago, and so I kind of had an inkling about that, in the beginning, and all these years later, and all this more gigs later, I've really got, that's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
The answer is, okay, in my town, there's nowhere to play this genre of music. Well, think outside the box.
Okay.
Think outside the box and realize that, the bar scene in any city is just a very small sliver of the people who are actually potential audience members for your music. And, here in Tulsa, it seems like to me, you go to a show at the BOK Center, and those aren't the people that I see at neighborhood bars, really.
No.
There's some of them, but, I've even had conversations with some of these people I've known for years, and they're like, well, I don't like something about going to bars. I don't like the police. I don't like the way the bands are presented. I don't like the sound. It's just something. And so they're like, I would rather spend my money going to see something that I know that is going to be great.
That makes sense.
And I'm comfortable there, and there's no smoking, and et cetera, et cetera. They all have their reasons why, but, I'm like, when you're playing to a certain audience when you're just playing in bars.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, you can't be anything under 21. That excludes a lot of people that have a potential to be supporters of your music.
Sure.
And as fringe level as what I do is now, I still think there's 14-year-old kid or 15-year-old kid or 20-year-old kid who, they've been listening to their uncle's Led Zeppelin albums, or they've been checking it out on YouTube. And
kid that also doesn't believe the guitar is dead.
Yeah, and they want to see something like this, and so you gotta. I just feel like promoting your own show is the way to go,
Yeah.
And I've watched people that are really successful at genres of music that Joe Bonamassa is immensely successful. For whatever you think of him or his music, he is immensely successful.
Absolutely.
At a genre of music that I guarantee you every major label would have turned him down.
Yeah.
Well, he's got the last laugh because he's making way more money than anybody ever could have thought of on a major label. And he's doing it all himself.
He's
with
got that
his
one
little team.
business partner. And the business partner handles all that stuff. He does the music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of like a 50-50 deal. And it's Joe Bonamassa Enterprises with this guy's.
Yeah. And then, they got the caveman, Kevin the Caveman Shirley, that does the recording. And, it's just like a real well-oiled machine that's, very successful out of, what would his other option have been? Maybe he got signed to, an Alligator Records or something like that. And I mean,
grouped in with the Stevie Ray Vaughns of the world.
Well, those guys do okay, but I mean, you're not near the success level as Bonamassa, and so it's not just music; it's marketing too.
Sure.
And I hate to think of it, but I mean that's just the way it goes.
He's definitely got his marketing down. Remember when we saw him play?
Yeah,
at the Oklahoma, or was it Tulsa barbecue?
Yeah, it was out at Mohawk Park.
Mohawk Park is Bloodline was the band, right? Man. That little kid came walking by. I'm like, no way. And then he started shredding. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't have been 15 at the time, I think.
Yeah, I think
it's back when he's going by Smoking Joe.
It was like the 94 or something like that, I think. And the Bloodline, that album had come out.
Mm-hmm.
And, Camo D played that quite a lot. And so I was driving at the time a lot, and I heard that on the radio a lot. And I was like, man, what is this? Oh, it's got Barry Oakley Jr. in it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got Waylon Krieger in it. Oh, man. And this little hotshot from New York. I mean, this is just, I liked the music first. And I went and saw that. And I mean, sad to say, though, remember all the people that were watching the Stevie Ray Vaughan impersonator? They were all like over on this other stage watching him.
Yeah.
And we're watching this, all-star band. And, I just, it's strange how things are. But,
yeah.
He kept on going, kept on evolving, and kept on doing it. But even he said himself, he said, the night that I turned professional, was the night that I started booking my own shows.
There you go.
You know, him and his parents rented out a VFW hall, and he sold tickets for $10 to his teachers and his friends. And, you know, that's the night he turned professional.
Yeah. Well, that's the way Kid Rock kind of got started too, man. He's, you know, he didn't do the bar scene and stuff like that. He slept in a studio and bought his time, and he, about once or twice a year, he'd go on and put on a show, and he'd finance or get somebody to help finance it. But it was his show.
Mm-hmm.
He pounded the pavement. He'd hired interns,
Mm-hmm.
basically hired these college kids and gave them a jacket or something like that. And they'd do the street team thing and all, and just put on this event.
Yeah.
And it's immensely successful because people were going there to see that. They weren't going to hang out with their friends and try to pick up chicks or anything like
Yeah,
that.
and they weren't there accidentally.
Right.
Yeah.
They were there intentionally.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely.
In the perception of the person,
Mhm.
there's a huge difference.
Sure.
And so that's one thing it took me a long time to realize too, because it's not like the song by Boston Rock and Roll Band. It's not like that.
No.
Nobody that I know that's gotten a major label deal ever got signed like that. It never happened like that for them. Those maybe in the 70s, maybe in the 60s.
Yeah.
Maybe that was true then, maybe a few people, but
Boston's story is kind of unique anyway.
there's, you know, mythology in all of this.
Sure.
And some of it gets a little bit distorted over time, but I just don't feel like, I used to think the more you played, the better off you were, and the better you were, and the more chance you got to, you know, get a chance of getting a deal of some kind. But then I started to realize that's not really true. That's not true at all.
No.
In fact, if you're playing all the time in a city like Tulsa, I think you're going to have a real hard time drawing anyone to come see you.
Mm-hmm.
That's.
I think we encountered some of that towards the end of our stint. I know I was getting kind of frustrated because it's like, okay, we're just doing the same stuff. I wanted to try new things, but we just didn't have the time. And you know, I hit burnout really bad. And so, in fact, I remember when I knew it was time to take a break. We were getting ready to go to the gig. I think it was probably over at Crow Creek or something. And I flipped on the TV, and it was an episode of Friends that I'd seen 6 or 7 times before. And I remember looking at the clock, and I was pissed because I wasn't going to be able to watch the rest of the episode because I had to go play music. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
It is time to beg off. So we did that Christmas party. You know, you and I had a nice long heart-to-heart and decided we were going to take a little break. And, you know, you went your way. I ended up getting married and having kids.
Yeah.
But, you know, here we are again, though, still 26 years later, talking music. And
man, you know, one thing I've realized
is,
is, you know, my friendships with people, I don't have a lot of what I consider close friends, but I have the quality over the quantity.
Sure. Yeah.
And a lot of my friends I've known for 25, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I may not talk to them every day. We may not talk all the time, but, you know, we're still friends,
Yep.
you know?
Absolutely.
And so that means more to me than just be like, okay, you know, 1,000 friends on Facebook. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, do you know every one of those people?
No.
I don't. I don't. I'd like to, but I don't.
There's some of them I want to ditch off of there.
Yeah.
Because you start seeing some of their posts, it's like, really? But I keep them because I'm using them because I want them to listen to my music. So,
yeah.
My true friends know who they are. It's some of the others that are, you know, you're there because maybe you listen to my song.
Maybe
not.
Maybe.
Cool. So you promoted that gig that one time. Success, not a success?
You know, I can't even, let's see.
You had about 4 bands with you, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so it was like you know, it was a guarantee versus the door. And so, you know, when you're sitting there and you're like, okay, the first weekend of the month is always what I call the mortgage lifter weekend. So that means, you know, you stack them up as deep as you can get the first weekend of the month. And so that didn't really qualify as one of those. That qualified as, you know, we're going to try to get as many people down here as we can because they really want to hear us.
Mm-hmm.
Not like people accidentally that are just going to be here because it's 2 miles from their house or around the corner from their house. They've got to make a concerted effort to get down here and to pay the entry fee. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of clubs in Tulsa that were charging a cover charge. And, you know, my rationale behind it was, you know, the other bands promote and everybody promotes and everybody wins. That's what this should be about, is everybody winning. You know, you've seen that little meme about you know, there's like a pallet of cash and these 2 people are like, okay, well, we still got to give the band $100, huh? I mean, there's a pallet of cash,
Yeah.
and they're like lamenting and giving the band the money.
Right.
See, this way you sink or swim on your own.
Right.
And so, you're responsible for all the successes and for all the failures.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas at all these times playing clubs, I didn't feel like that was always true.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, okay.
You play for the door and they keep letting all their buddies in
right.
for free.
And then they say, okay, well, all these regulars come in for free. And I was like, well, not if our deal is a guarantee versus the door, they don't get in for free. Because they're going to come in and drink. You're going to make your money. Mm-hmm. Now, why can't I make mine?
Sure.
And then that's where the fight starts. And it's like a lot of these people just, well, like I said, they're not in the music business. Mm-hmm. They're in the alcohol business. And I can't fault them for wanting something as cheaply as they can get it. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to go in there and just work for them for nothing just because I like their business and like them. There's a million bars, there's a million places to play, and you just got to find some that are on the same page. And thankfully, I've been able to do that from time to time. Other times, it's just you're just like, I don't even get mad anymore. Now I'm just like, well, all right,
yeah,
I know how that goes. I've met 6 of these people in the last 40 years, just like this person's attitude and their mindset is. And, go on down the road. There's other places, and they probably won't make it anyway. I mean,
that's true. The bar turnover is pretty quick.
The life cycle of a club is, it's pretty short.
Yeah.
And I think the whole idea of the successful one is keeping it short. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to own Cheers or some long-standing staff. No, you don't. You really don't.
You get in there, build it up, and sell it off. Just
you get in there and just throw it underground and, make it and get out.
Yeah, well, we've seen enough of those kind of bar owners in this town. The guys that open up this club and that club, get as many people in the first couple of weeks, and then people show up to work the next day and it's shut down and the kitchen sink's gone. Mm-hmm. It's like, man. Yeah. And then somehow that guy's able to open up another bar because he had his brother-in-law sign for it.
It's a crazy business, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, just
another
keeping the focus.
Stay home.
Yeah, just realizing it's evolving. Now it's evolving. When I first started playing and you first started playing music to go out and play, and there wasn't 500 channels of television and all these choices and all these demands on your time, effort, energy, and finances. Now it's like you're competing with a lot of things.
Yeah.
I've read the figures of the gaming industry alone.
Oh,
I mean, it was tenfold what the music industry was. So, it's just like, the scraps are getting scrappier every year because there's so many other things to be involved in, It's like
www 10 times better things to do.
Man, I'm telling you. And so, you're just kind of having to realize that it's a changing world and you have to involve with it. But that's the one thing I have learned in all these years and all these thousands of gigs of playing is promoting your own show.
Yep. Okay. Very cool. So you have any plans on promoting a show anytime soon?
Well, like I said, man, I'm still trying to get to where I can actually play my usual stuff. And, I had a few things happen this year that, a couple years ago, my bass player and sort of spiritual guide, he passed away.
Right. That was Ace, right?
Yeah. And he died. And so, I've had sort of a strange year. I was thinking about it on the way over here. I was like, I've played a lot of different places and a lot of different formats and, done solo gigs, done band gigs, just picking up a rhythm section when you need one. That's kind of fun. It's like when you're in a band that's, working all the time, it's like, you're in a marriage basically. And so you can go from doing that and, you're clicking along really good, getting tight, getting good, and getting a good repertoire built up. But then, when all that goes away, then you have to do it differently. So that means you got to be able to have a repertoire that you can just call 2 guys up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and know that we can make something good out of this. And, there's a different skill level of that than other stuff. And so, I've had a little break here and thinking about what's next. And, obviously is keep recording, keep doing what I can on the website and all this other stuff. But
maybe even do podcasts.
Yeah, maybe even do podcasts. And, just trying to go forward, but albeit in a different way, in a different capacity, with a different mindset and kind of like different expectations,
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, I guess, the answer in a nutshell, what's coming up. But yeah, promoting shows is the way to go.
All right. Very good. All right, well, I guess that's about it for today on the subject of bars and guitars and promoting your own shows and all that kind of stuff. Lots of stuff. So, hey, thanks for tuning in to the Band Advice podcast, Matt and Mark, and our wonderful journey of musicianship. I think I'm just going to come up with a different name for every one of these things, right? Why not, right? So, hey, be sure to check us out on our YouTube channel and drop a couple bucks into the Patreon bucket if you so desire. And thumbs up are always appreciated. So, till next time, peace.